Hey, I'm Jamie and I want to talk to you about the buy-to-let property investment market in the UK, what you should be looking at, how much you should be looking to invest, and what metrics you want to measure to maximize your return on investment. So what we're typically looking at is a buy-to-let opportunity, okay? And I get asked all the time what this should look like, whether it should be a flat, whether it should be a house, what we should be looking at, and this is what we should be looking at in the typical investment opportunity. So first of all, flats. So when you're starting out in property, I recommend staying away from flats, and it's not to do with the fact that it's a flat rather than a house or an apartment instead of a house. It's more the fact that it comes with a leasehold. And with property, you've got freehold property and you've got leasehold property. The basic way to explain it is a freehold property is you own the land underneath it and everything that comes with it. So you actually own the property, if you like. Or the mortgage owns the property if you've got a mortgage on it. Whereas with a leasehold property, you do not own the rights to the land underneath it, and so you are paying somebody for the right, i.e. the freeholder, the right to have your flat on that land. Okay, so what comes along with that is you're paying for service charges, for stuff that they're doing, cleaning, upholding the property, and grounds rent as well, which is a rent to the landlord or the owner of the land, and it just gets a bit sticky, okay? So, yeah. Stick with freehold, we're sticking with properties. Now, there's a lot of opportunities, and some of the big mistakes that I see is you see people going, wow, this is a beautiful 4-bed detached property. I would love to live there. But what you have to remember is you're not living there. Okay, the person that looks to rent a property often isn't renting those types of property. You also have to think of actually the return on capital, okay, or ROCE. So ROCE is your return on capital employed. Right, not badly. So an easy way to think about this is if you had the money in your bank account, what return would you be getting on it? So, you know, right now you're getting 0.01% for the courtesy, right, of having your money sat in the bank. Hardly an appealing transition or investment, especially when inflation in the UK at the moment is between 2 and 3%. So what that means is your £100,000 that you might have in the bank, or 50,000 or 10,000, its value is reducing and diminishing on a daily basis because the return you're getting on it compared to inflation rates is going down. And so if you've got this big, beautiful, detached property like this one here with a nice sort of path, you know, maybe some shrubbery going down, it's looking absolutely gorgeous, very attractive home to live in, but actually that's going to cost you 400,000. And you're probably going to get a rent on that of maybe, let's say, 1,000 a month. That's not very appealing because, you know, the actual return on the capital you're getting is not that high. So instead of going through all of the examples of what not to invest in, let me talk about what I personally think are the right ways to invest. So there's two ways to get a return on property. Two main ways, okay? There's the ROCE, which we've just gone through, and there's something called capital appreciation. Now, capital appreciation is the increase in value, okay, in the property over time. Now, typically, since property investments have been measured, since I think it was 1086, property value has doubled every 10 years. Okay, so if it was worth £1 10 years ago, it's probably worth £2 today. In 10 years' time, it will be worth £4, etc., etc., etc. Okay, now can it carry on with that average over time? In theory, yes, but you know, you can imagine the average person in 100 years having £10 million in the bank account, and it doesn't really mean much anymore. So there has to be a limit on that, I guess. The other thing with capital appreciation is I would see it as a bonus to your investments rather than the investment criteria, because nobody can guarantee the capital appreciation. So I don't recommend making that a core focus. Instead, what I'm looking at is return on capital employed. Okay. Now I'm going to give an example of what really typically does work. I'm typically focusing on a terrace property. That's meant to be terrace houses there, by the way. So a terrace property, I might buy that property. Now where I am in West Yorkshire, I might try to buy this property for circa 100,000. Let's put PP next to that, that's purchase price. I'm going to put around £10,000 into the property for a refurbishment. And then I'm looking to refinance that property for, let's say, 130,000. Okay, so what I've done there, going to put reval on that, which is a revaluation or a remortgage where you are pulling out capital. What we're aiming for is to buy a property at a good price. We are refurbishing the property and then we are refinancing the property coming in. Okay, now here's where it might get a little bit complicated, but let's see how we get on with this. So in order to purchase for 100,000, the real power with a property investment over stocks or other investments that are out there is that what you can do is you can leverage. Okay, leverage in property is very popular with mortgages, etc. So typically what you're looking at is a 75% loan to value. What that means is whatever the value of the property, or in this case the purchase price of 100, a bank will give you 75% of that. Okay, so what you're going to need in terms of cash for this is you're going to need 25,000 for the purchase of the property. You're going to need 10,000 in terms of the refurbishment, and then you've probably got some fees in there as well. So let's put another 5,000 on there, which will be your legal fees, maybe some broker fees, etc. Okay, so you're all in there for £40,000. Okay, so 40,000. Now here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. Hopefully you're following along here. So once we've done that and we've added some value here to the property for 130,000, it's now worth 130. What we're going to try and do then is refinance. So we're going to say to the bank, hey, listen, I've just added a load of value to this property. Come out, I think it's worth 130 grand. Can you give me some money on that basis? Okay, you don't actually talk like that with them, by the way. I'm just kind of explaining it. But they'll then come out and go, yes, Jamie, you've done a fantastic job. That's worth 130 all day long. We will loan you 75% of that money. Remember, we're at 75% LTV, loan to value. So then what that is coming out as is, I've done a really awkward number here, haven't I? 65,000, 32.5, 97,500. So 97,500 is 75% of that, okay? So they are going to give you that money back. Okay, so part one of that is it needs to pay back the previous loan. Okay, so remember, we actually have 75% of debt on that, or mortgage on that property. So that's going to come out of that 75k. Okay, so 97.5 minus the 75k is, where are we? 22,500. £22,500. Now remember, we put in 40. So what we're going to do now, I'll come back to that in a moment, is we had 40,000 in there. We've now got back, was it 27.5? 27,500. So now, I'm going to go back over this after, and I guarantee I've got the figures wrong. Now we've got 12,500 in there. Okay, so we've got £12,500 left in the property in this scenario. Okay, now you need to work out all of your breakdowns on this. Okay, but that's an important part. Okay, this is the cash. Now remember, what we're trying to work out is what is the return on capital or the return on cash employed in the project? This is what I'm excited by because I'm a massive geek. Okay, so on this property, I know that I'm going to be renting this property out for around £650, okay? Per calendar month, PCM. So what I want to work out is an annualized return on capital employed. What this means is how much money I'm getting returned to me for my cash invested over a 12-month period. Okay, that's annualized return. So 650, obviously you need to work it out for what your area is. 650, we're gonna times that by 12, which is gonna give us 7,800. Let's just double check that. 6,500, 1,300. Yep, 7,800. Obviously not as good as math as I think I am. 7,800, okay, but that's gross. That is not what's going into our bank. You need to think about the loan here. So remember, we've got a 97,500 loan, first of all. So that's going to be pretty hefty. Right now, the rates, i.e. the interest that mortgages are charging us, we're in the middle of the crisis right now. That's the lowest interest rates that it's ever been, okay? For buy-to-lets, I like to do it if you really want to be risk averse, i.e. be conservative with your risk and plan for the long term on this. I'd probably plan out an average of about 4%, but let's call it 5% just to be safe, okay? So we're going to do mortgage costs, MC, at 5%. Okay, and this is going to be annualized. So we're going to work out what 5% of 97,500 is, which is going to be 97,500, which is 4,500, 375. So it's 4,875. You're probably thinking, how did I just work out that math in a really weird way? So you've got 4,875. So this is a cost. If anyone's telling you the gross figure, that is not exciting to you, okay? It's kind of irrelevant. It's just a metric. It's not the one you really want to focus on. So you're also going to have additional costs that come off of this, okay? See how much that's reduced already. So you're probably going to take off, realistically, another 15%, okay? Now, what that includes is some maintenance, but obviously you've just done some work. This is long term, okay? So in the next 15 years, I buy property for life. I'm probably never going to sell my buy-to-let properties. Once I've had kids, once I've got a family, I'm going to hand it down to them, and hopefully it just builds up and builds up, you know. My exit plan is death with property. I'm not excited about the idea of selling it on unless I get a fantastic deal for it. So I know I'm going to need a new kitchen, new boilers, do a full refurb that's going to cost me 15 grand in 15 years, okay? Most people don't plan for that, but if you're trying to get an accurate idea of what you're comparing this against, you need to understand the long-term liabilities within this investment. So we're going to take off circa 15% of that, okay? So we're going to break this down. So you've got 780, which is 10%. And then on top of that, you've got 390, which is that again. So we are at 1,170 pounds that we're taking off again. Just take that so it's a bit cleaner. And then so if we total those up, we're going to have 6,045 pounds in costs, and then we're going to take that off of that. So we're at 1,000. The difference between 7,800 and 6,045, we've got 1,755 pounds. Okay, so suddenly see how it went from, wow, 7,800 a year, that's absolutely incredible. But it's still a great investment. So if we look at it, and this depends on what you would consider. So let me grab the calculator for this because I know I'll screw this up. So now what we're doing is we're going to work out the return on capital employed, okay? So the way that we're doing this is we are doing the net return, which is 1755. Terrible handwriting. And then the cash left in, so we'll put cash in, which was 12,500, and we are dividing the two of them, okay? And what we're going to do is, this is the net return here, and then that is going to equal the return on capital employed, and that is going to be 14.04%, okay? Now that is a pretty hefty return on capital that you've got there, okay? What you also have to think is you've got 12,500 in the deal cash, but remember it's worth 130,000 now based on what the bank said back here. Or is that it on that? Here we go. So 130,000. So we've also got, whatever that difference is, 32,500 in there. That counts as equity. So we've got another around 20k, because obviously that's cash. We've got equity. So actually, that's a pretty phenomenal return if you think about it. On our cash, we've got 14.04%, but we've also got another £20,000 in equity. So that's not money in the bank, but if you, theoretically, if you sold that property tomorrow, let's say you had no cost to it, which there are costs obviously, you're gonna get another £20,000 in your pocket, which is, on that cash, is another 160%, 170% return on capital. Okay, so that's pretty powerful. The final thing that I'd say on this that is really important is coming back to that capital growth element, okay? So let's say your area, in my area, we're typically looking at growth rates of between 5 and 8%, but let's say 5%, okay? So as this house is going up during the years, the value of it is increasing, and that's massively impacting the return that you're getting through capital growth. So if we have a 5% plan here, we've got 130,000 at Y0, which is right at the beginning of the investment. The next year, we are adding 5% on, which again, 5% is going to be 6,500. So now it's worth 136,500. And then we go on and on and on. So if we went over to 5 years of that, if I do 130,000 times by 1.05 to represent 5%, 136,500, then 143 year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, we are at 165,916 pounds. And that's increasing the value of the property. So freehold property, terrace properties or semi-detached properties, focus on the return on capital that you're getting. Capital uplift is a massive bonus. Hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully that's been informative. And if it has, make sure to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.